What's up, everyone, and welcome to Shared Save the Game Media's weekly gaming discussion podcast. I am your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we are bringing you a review of Saros. We also are going to talk about a whole plethora of Xbox news, Game Pass price decreases, Asha Sharma saying, screw you, Microsoft Gaming, we're Xbox, and so much more. Before we get to that, got to introduce my co-host, hanging out with me as always, Sam Heaney. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. Busy as all hell. There's lots going on. I can finally talk about what I've been busy doing. That's exciting. But yeah, no, I'm doing well. I'm feeling quite well rested, which is a nice change. Feeling freshened, ready to go. I've got like 3 glasses of water here because I know there's going to be a lot of talking today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be a good episode. I can feel it in my bones. How are you?
I'm pumped. We were just talking before the show. I was going into this episode all week, like, can't wait to hear about Saros. I know Sam's probably going to be really passionate about it. It's going to be a good episode just from that alone. And then Xbox decided, what if we drop 19 different pieces of news today? And I have people in my DMs. They're like, "Oh, what's your opinion?" I'm like, "Stay tuned. It's coming. It's coming."
Yeah.
Even though I have shared some thoughts in Discords here and there, but there's a lot going on over at Xbox. It's interesting time, so we will get to that and more. Let's get through the housekeeping so we can get into the show proper. This is Shared Save, of course, Save the Game Media's weekly gaming podcast. We are usually live every Thursday on youtube.com/Save the Game Media. If you can't catch us live, post every Sunday on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're there, please drop us a review. It does help us. Note, if you're listening to this, we did not record this live. It is dropping 3 a.m. Eastern time on April 24th. So about like 8 hours after we normally would record an episode live, because that's when the Saros embargo is. So no live episode this week for everyone, but you're all getting it at the same time. Patrons, public feeds, I'm not holding until Sunday. You're getting a little treat here. All right. So if you're listening on public feeds, you're like, you know what, it's nice getting these shows early. Patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Head over there. For $1 a month, you can get exclusive bonus content like our exclusive Shared Save episode we will be recording this weekend. You can also get access to this podcast 3 days early. Before we get to more, I gotta thank our current patrons. So thank you to Sam Hall, Alpaca Tom, Rick Davis, Silkenet, Dave Harp, David Hotright, Lillian, Marcus O'Neill, Nikolai at Night, Fabulous Brianna, Brandon, Black Wire, David Burdett, Dinglebaum, and Savoy Prime. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Sam, people obviously are probably clicking on this. They're like, oh, Saros. I can't wait to hear Saros. Or maybe they're here for the Xbox news. All right. There will be timestamps in this episode, but before we get to all that, we, of course, have to go over the games we have been playing apart from Saros. So I want to know, when you're not playing that, what have you been filling your time with?
Surprisingly, not that much. But I a couple of little notable things. I have continued my RE4 cleanup, nearing the platinum. I'm 1 trophy away, so it would have been done already, but Saros did derail that a fair amount. So on the back burner, but as soon as I get Saros out of the way, it will be the very next thing I do. The other thing, Kev, another new release this week.
Ooh,
only a little bit again, because Saros is a time sink. I'm telling you. Vampire Crawlers.
Oh, you decided to jump into it.
I did, yes. So I picked it up on PS5. I did consider Steam. That's where I played the demo, obviously. But the allure of the platinum spoke to me. So I 100%ed Vampire Survivors on Steam, platinumed it on PlayStation.
Wow, man.
It's actually not as hard as you think. It's a tiny bit grindy, but you can actually do it relatively quickly if you are like specifically going after things that it requires. But yeah, I haven't really gotten that far into it. It's about as far as I played through in the Steam demo. But it looks great. I mean, obviously, it's pixelated art, so it's like it's not really pushing anything, but it runs well. It looks great, and I can't wait for it to be another, Balatro inscription type thing where I'm just losing hideous amounts of time to it.
Yeah.
Uh,
So how does the because obviously this is you're picking cards to fight off like waves of enemies, right?
yes,
How does it give you the dopamine hits as opposed to what Vampire Survivor? Because Vampire Survivors always had me like, gotta get the coins, gotta fill that bar up to explode the thing and see what upgrade I can get, see what combinations I can make. What's Vampire Crawlers? Because I haven't jumped into a demo. I am interested.
it is quite similar
Okay.
to Vampire Survivors in that sense. Obviously, completely different perspective. Um, but as you are using cards that you naturally have when you start the game, and then you collect through like opening chests that you find on the maps of the world, you can then power up those cards with upgrades. But also, as you're killing enemies, you still have that little blue progress bar that you're filling up and getting XP.
Mm,
So that does tick up, and then when it fills, you get to pick an upgrade and then apply that upgrade to one of your cards. So then the build crafting comes in, right? Whereas like if there is an upgrade that um as a very, very basic example that is far more complex than this, but that times twos your damage, do you want to apply that to a card that is a single target card, or do you want to apply it to an AoE card?
mm,
That depends on what the base damage of each of those cards is and
hmm.
what kind of enemies you're expecting to run into. So, it, and as far as I know, I haven't looked too deeply into it because I don't want to spoil anything for myself. But it does appear that you can, with certain builds later into your playthrough, I would wager, you can reach that like AFK type, just passive, watching all of the explosions go off stuff.
Hmm.
But definitely not early game.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, because one of my favorite things to do. Obviously, garlic was
Of
overpowered
course.
as hell in in Vampire Survivors, but you could write combinations, especially like the garlic, the vampiring health from enemy. Like there were times like, oh, I'll just put my controller down for the I'm a hit at like 18 minutes, and then you just watch it for 12. So I'm glad to hear it keeps that sort of rhythm going because I am interested. I don't know when I will possibly get to it with the plethora of games, but I'll get there. It's only like $10 or something, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exciting. I'm glad. I hope it's everything you wanted.
It seems to be. Time will
All
tell.
right. Well, obviously, the only other thing you've been playing is Saros, so we will jump into that after I go through the games I've been playing. I'm going to start with the game I've put the least amount of time into, and that I've played about an hour and or so of Mouse PI for Hire.
Mm,
I sold some things that have been sitting around, some old Xbox 360, Xbox 360 console. I was kind of the disk drive didn't pop out of that. I was like, somebody just take this. I got a decent price for all that, so I was like, I'm going to treat myself to Mouse PI for Hire, and I played an hour so far. I like it.
okay.
I don't love it.
Right.
And this is again first hour thoughts. Things could open up massively. I think the shooting feels really good. It's a boomer shooter, obviously, but you play as a mouse. It has the noir black and white style going on, and which I love. I think it looks visually gorgeous. There are
Mhm.
some sections where like frame rate dips, but I'm playing at 240 FPS, so it drops to like 212 or something, and I'm like, okay, I'm holding it to a ridiculously high standard here, but it is a small indie game. Um, I like the aesthetic, I like the gameplay. I don't know about the story so far. Nothing has
Mm,
really captured my interest. That's not to say the character like Jack Pepper, Troy Baker's doing a fantastic job, and you would think it's like a silly mouse game, right? Like all the characters are that Mickey Mouse rubber hose style. It's surprisingly very serious. Like they treat it as like this is a deep tale about a dark war hero detective who's trying to solve the under underbelly of the Mouseburg. And I'm like, yo, I didn't need this like to be so serious. Hopefully you nail it, but There are cheese puns, as you've heard, that like a lot of cheese puns throughout, which I like. I like puns, but yeah, it's the story hasn't captured me so far, but I am enjoying my time. I'm excited to jump back in and get further into the game.
Yeah, it's on my wish list. It's one that I will pick up probably when it goes on sale later this year, I would imagine. Um, yeah, I mean, I didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot barge pole in terms of fantasy because I was like,
Hmm.
this is one of those swing games where it's either going to review higher than we thought, like 10 points higher than where I would place it, or it's going to be like a 40. Um, so very glad that it's seemingly reviewing quite well, being received on the whole very strongly. I've heard similar criticisms from other people about the story. Um, I know that the IGN review is getting torn apart because they're talking about ludonarrative dissonance and stuff. I get it, or,
I
whatever.
can't deal with that nonsense.
Um, but yeah, I think that that is the one point of the game that could maybe be a letdown. But if the gameplay is strong enough, then I think that that could carry you through a playthrough. Fun little tidbit though, Kev.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know whether you've met the character yet, Wanda Fuller.
Yep.
Yeah, she's a good friend of mine, the voice actress.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I studied with her for my masters in London.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
did you send her a nice little message being like,
I
hey,
I've been in contact. I said I haven't
awesome.
played the game yet, but I've seen all the promo. They did like a little on social media detailing all the voice actors, and she was in that. So yeah, sent her
Yeah,
congratulations.
when you finish the like tutorial mission, it does a whole like Troy Baker is Jack Pepper, and
Oh,
then
awesome.
in Mouse PI for Hire, and it like has that old school kind of like, it's like also featuring, and it gives you like a whole list of the cast, and I'm sitting there like trying to find names I recognize, and I was like, I don't know any of these people, so like
Yeah.
that's awesome that they seemingly got some, I don't want to say unknown talent, but like
No, no,
less known,
relatively,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
less known talent. That's awesome. Yeah, so I'll talk more about that. But a game I do have to sing the praises of, Pragmata,
Whoa, whoa.
or I say Pragmata, Mata.
What's the matter with
Before,
you?
yeah, before launch, I would say Pragmata, right? Like when
Okay,
you see the title of this game, I'm like Pragmata, not
sure.
Pragmata, because that's how they say it in the game. I think it sounds
Mm,
weird, but that's how they
yeah.
say it in the game. So that is the actual title. I have rolled credits on this game.
Mm.
It took me, Steam says 14 hours. The in-game clock says like 10 and a half.
Oh,
It seems to be doing a thing where like when you're in upgrade menus and like maybe dialogue doesn't count towards your in-game clock. Very strange. Didn't like it. I want accurate time reflections, but I will say 14 hours well spent. Uh, this is probably my current game of the year.
whoa.
I know I posted on social medias that I was pretty high on this game. For me, this is basically everything I could ask for in a video game.
Wow.
I really have like, my only critique is that I thought the final boss was like a difficulty spike. Kyle, who also beat it, my brother, he destroyed the final boss apparently. So I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I also destroyed a boss he struggled with immensely. So different play styles. So for anyone that doesn't know, this is a Capcom game, and people have been describing it kind of like it's a dad game. I've seen that going around. It's a game about fatherhood, and it certainly is. There are very strong messages of fatherhood, like parental roles in this game, which is, I'm not a dad, so I'm like, I get it though. Like, I think it's well done narratively. But anyway, you play as a Hugh who's he goes on a space mission, gets stranded up on this moon base where
Classic.
there's like a 3D printer that can print anything, which I think is really cool, like science, sci-fi wise.
Mm.
Uh, he runs into Diana, who is a pragmata. Man, I cannot. I want to say, oh my god, I'm just gonna stop saying it. She's a robot. She's a robot, and she can hack the enemy robots who are trying to kill you. So when you when you just try to shoot them, you do absolutely nothing. Like you cannot just take your gun out and like, oh, I don't like the hacking mini game. You will not be able to get through the game.
Mm.
You have to use, I use a controller. So you use the face buttons to move up,
Oh.
down, left, right in this little grid. And in the grid will be these blue squares that'll amplify the damage you do and open up the enemies. Because each enemy will have a weak point. Like some will, once you hit those squares and open them up, it'll pop out of their head. You shoot that, and then you can take them out. Or it might be like little tubes on their back or something. Each one's unique depending on the robot you're fighting. But you can also get these upgrades, these mods that you can use in your little hacking grid. So you can get one that like freezes the robots in place or like overheats them or multi-hack. So like you hack one robot, but if they're in a vicinity, it does it to the multiple robots. Like there's a very cool, you can pick and choose your play style because you can only bring a certain amount of these to go with you, and then you find other ones throughout the level. Hugh has a variety of guns at his disposal to take care of these enemies. I really like the shotgun. I really liked something called like the I think it was the plasma laser. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a laser gun. Um, but yeah, I couldn't get enough of this game. I think the setting is beautiful. The story really is engaging. I've seen some criticisms of the story saying it's nothing special. I personally thought the relationship dynamic between Diana and Hugh was fantastic. And I don't know. The combat is unique. I've certainly never played something like this. It's a PS3, Xbox 360 game, but in the absolute best way. I mean that as a compliment. Like doesn't overstay its welcome. Has enough side content to engage you. Like it has, I think, 30 training rooms you can do, and these training rooms reward you with upgrade materials or these coins where you can play bingo with one of the robots at your little hub base to unlock more upgrades, costumes, stuff like that. Like it's just engaging stuff that doesn't take a lot of like, oh, I have to retread every single area or like go back to this one specific spot to collect something. Like it's a very, I want to say, streamlined. It makes you feel like the level design is fantastic. You can get through most of the areas pretty quickly. Like when you go back to do collectible cleanup, because there is collectibles, it's not, oh my God, I'm starting here and it's all the way on the other end. Like there's checkpoints throughout. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I just think it's an absolutely phenomenal game. I would highly recommend it to everyone. I know it's been on sale on PC and I think Xbox codes too. You could get. For like 40 something dollars already. So I would check it out.
That's so great to hear, man, because, I remember when it was first revealed back in
2020,
yeah,
right?
because then I think it said at the time that it was coming out in 2022, and we were like, "Whoa, that's so far away."
Mm-hmm.
And now 4 years later, typically games like this don't we've had some examples, but where there's so many delays and it almost is turning into vaporware.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, it's not gonna land. It might be okay, but it's not gonna be like anything great. And I guess it just proves that Capcom is on a unstoppable streak. I wonder whether Onimusha is gonna be the thing that derails that or not. But I don't know whether you can speak to this. To me, it kind of, obviously I have not played it. It kind of occupies the same space, like mentally to me, as like a Stellar Blade,
Mm.
where like obviously different games, different play styles, but it feels a bit more like, you said it's sort of the PS3 360 era type
Mm-hmm.
games where it's a little bit more compact, a little bit tighter, relatively linear. Obviously, there are open zones in Stellar Blades. I know my analysis isn't quite one to one,
I get what you're saying.
but it's in that vein to me where it's an offshoot that is aping a lot of different things, but doing a few specific things very uniquely. I wonder whether that's true.
No, I would say that is accurate, especially because when I drafted it in Fantasy Critic, look like I was excited for the game leading up to the buildup, right? Like when we finally saw what it actually was, I was like, this is a Kevin game. Like I'm not a huge, like I like Capcom, but they're not my favorite publisher. And like
Sure.
I'm not an RE guy. I don't care about Onimusha, even though fingers crossed that they continue this generational run. So like I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump into this. This is like something for me, but I was expecting it to come out around that low 80 review range. Like that's what I expected. So when the reviews came out and it was initially I think a 88 or something, it might be an 86 now as it's dropped a little bit. I would put it in that higher range of scores. Like I
Nice.
think this is better than Stellar Blade. I think this does
Oh,
more
okay.
unique things than Stellar Blade, and that's not to say that's not
Sure,
shots at
sure.
Stellar Blade. I really liked Stellar Blade, but like I think the story here connects with me more, and maybe that's just the type of games I like. Like I love a Plague Tale. I did like the last one. Like I like those companion-esque, however the relationship is type games.
Yeah.
And I really do think the gameplay here brings it to the next level. Like Stellar Blade feels good to play, but it feels like a game you've played before.
Mhm.
I can tell you right now, Pragmata does not feel like a game you've played before.
Nice. I look forward to getting to it eventually. I certainly will. But it's one of those where, on the surface, and you talking about it being like the face buttons with the puzzles, it looks like a thing that just shouldn't work, but clearly it does. And you don't have to answer this because it might verge into spoiler territory. But it feels to me, again, outward observer, like a game that's kind of like a one-off. I wonder whether the seeming success of the game will lay it up to be some kind of franchise, because it has like the sort of offshoot. What was the the tower defense type game that they Capcom did? Was it Capcom?
I'm trying to think. The Exo Primal? Is that
No.
no? Tower
I've just
defense
got
game.
origami in my head, and it's not Kunitsugami. Was that Capcom?
Yes. Yeah, well, that was Capcom. Yeah,
Yeah, so
Kinitsugami
it
Path of Goddess. Yeah, yeah.
feels like that, where it's kind of like a one-off kind of let's just do something experimental. But obviously, this has landed considerably better.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Kunitsugami wasn't beloved, because it did find an audience, but I think this has potentially more wider appeal and potential. So exciting to see whether anything else does come of it.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer whether the game is able to have a sequel.
Sure.
I will not answer that. I will say if this is just a one-off, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I had this conversation with Kyle after he rolled credits. We both came to the same conclusion where we feel this can be a one and done. We
Mm.
don't need more of it. Now, I'm not saying whether they
You'd happily take it, I'm sure.
yeah,
But
if they announce Pragmata 2, right, or whatever, I'm not going to say no, but it's also not something that I'm like yearning for. Like, oh, we need this in the next couple of years, you know?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I've been playing though. So now I think it's time to get into the main topic of discussion, and that is your review of Saros. So
Mm.
I'm gonna set you up with a few questions, and then I'll just let you go, and I'll interject what I feel is necessary.
Please.
So obviously you are playing this because you work at IGN for coverage.
Yes, to be
So
clear up front, I did not get a code for review. It was for coverage. But as this is going live at the embargo, I'm free to talk about it.
yes. How long have you played Saros for? You're playing on PS5 Pro, obviously.
Yep.
And what are your high level thoughts?
Sure. I believe I've played for around 35 hours. I have yet to roll credits.
Wow.
But I have reached but not beaten the final boss. So I am essentially at the end. I would have finished it, but the nature of my coverage kind of meant that I've had to be a little bit more stop-starty, restarting just to get things locked down. As you can imagine, there's lots of variations of things that I need to experiment with, and that has changed how I've interacted with the game. That being said, Kevin, Saros is better than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, okay, you had me on a. I was like, yo, is he about to say like
I
worse
was
than
I was
Returnal?
considering the bit, but I would be doing Saros a disservice by making a joke. and this is, to preface everything I say, I'm obviously a very, very biased person, right? I have loved Housemarque for almost 2 decades at this point. And Returnal, as I've said multiple times, to me is the best game of this current generation, just period, across the board, not just PlayStation. So I was coming in with very high expectations. I was expecting it to be Returnal, but better. And to be clear, that is what Saros is. But Saros, I genuinely kind of struggle to understand how they managed to pull it off so perfectly, for a number of reasons that we'll get into. But as Returnal was such a massive step up from every game that they've done prior to that, if you think about them going from Resogun to Returnal, and what a massive leap that is, and how excellent both of those games are, they have, I don't think, taken as much of a leap from Returnal to Saros, but they've realized that rather than trying to essentially do the same thing again, they have taken that leap and made it horizontal and just expanded on things. And because of that expansion, they've managed to refine practically every single element of the game to just make it better. And I am utterly, utterly, utterly in love with it. I can't say enough good things. So the floor is open.
Okay. I first to be fair, that's kind of what I expected coming in, knowing your history with Returnal, with Housemarque, and your hype level for Saros. So obviously, this one seemed to have more of a narrative focus than Returnal did. Not to say Returnal didn't have a narrative, because it was interlaced in between, deaths and the cutscenes you would get. Saros put this more, I would say, front and center. Do you feel like that has been to its benefit, its detriment? And obviously, Rahul Kohli, well-known actor, iZombie, I'm a big fan personally, is the lead role. How are we feeling about the performance, story, narrative? Well, why don't you jump into that?
Yeah. So you're right. It is more story forward. I think that is the one element of the game, and obviously we're recording this prior to any reviews coming out, so I don't really know consensus. I think it's going to be surprisingly high in terms of reviews and consensus on the game. And Returnal was high. I think it was 86 on Metacritic or something. I'm anticipating Saros to be higher than that. But I think that even with that glowing praise, the story and how it is presented to you could be the contentious thing in conversation. I personally think that it's very well handled. I think that is me. That's coming from a point of me understanding what it's there to do, because the way that it is more story forward, especially in the first few hours of the game, it's, to me, presenting itself as a buffer to help keep people through what is going to be a comparative to, as you unlock upgrades and stuff, more difficult first few runs. In the same way that, something like Hades presents you with a lot of introductions to characters and dialogue, and, exploring these environments for the first time and going back to the hub and all this. Saros does the exact same thing. You have a hub with different NPCs that you can speak to, members of your team, and they give lore. They talk about current situations and things that have just happened, and the plot obviously progresses from there. I think that once you get through the first couple of hours of story, Housemarque know that you're there primarily for the gameplay. That isn't to say that the story takes necessarily a back seat or gets worse, because I think the story is strong throughout, and that is helped by the fact that I think the voice cast all turn in excellent jobs. There isn't anybody doing a sort of a half-assed take.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that might be contentious, I think, I don't know how much I would buy into people talking about this. Similar to Returnal, the way that they present the narrative, even up to the point where I am, obviously I'm not going to get into any spoilers, it's quite ambiguous.
Another one of those.
It's quite sort of, when you die, you see like quick flashes and glimpses of things, and you're like, "What's this?" And there are things that you learn and experience and go throughout the game at different points that help to sort of build that bigger picture. But you only really get the bigger picture in the latter half, last third of the game. Again, that to me isn't an issue, because the thing that's keeping me playing isn't the story. It's nice to have, but the thing that's keeping me playing is the gameplay, and that's more than carrying me through. And then when I get those little narrative beats, that's icing on the cake, so to speak.
That's interesting, because the way it's been, I don't know if this is just me misinterpreting, but like when I see trailers or like presentations of this, I assumed it was more of a, you're going to do a run, you're going to either finish your run, whatever that means for the area or death, and then you'd come back and you would have maybe a cutscene or a like a debrief with the characters in your little hub world, and then that's how the narrative would be told. I don't want to say like a Destiny, but like when I go to the tower and then I talk to, that's kind of how I pictured it. What you were describing doesn't sound like that.
No, I mean, that is certainly here.
Okay.
In exactly the same vein as a Hades, I think that is a very apt comparison. Whether you succeed or you fail at a run in Hades, you always go back to the palace where all the characters are, and you'll see that there's a new character that has a speech bubble next to them, and that means they've got something new to say, a new conversation to have, and that you get that here.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty of cutscenes, far more cutscenes than Returnal, but it is still ultimately secondary. And I think the thing that is going to help Housemarque is that even if people argue that the narrative is, I could see people saying that the narrative is a little bit shallow.
Mm-hmm.
But even if that is your opinion, Housemarque never make you sit long enough with it for it to become a problem. It's always, you can just get right back out the door and start a run again. So
let's talk about the actual runs and the gameplay loop, because obviously it's a roguelite. It's going to be in the same vein as Returnal. But they talked about prior to launch, Returnal, one of its big criticisms, I would say, was runs could last 2-ish plus hours, right? And at launch, there was no like suspend run. People had to use rest mode. It was all controversy, like especially when updates would get pushed. They've said this is a much, I don't want to say it's not a shorter experience, because obviously you're putting 35 hours into it. Like the game is still quite large in scope if you're doing everything, but the runs themselves are more bite-sized. I think they said 20-30 minute runs. Is that accurate? Are you spending less time? I don't want to say less time, but is it you can finish a run quicker or finish an area quicker and feel like you're making progress faster?
Yes to all of the above.
Okay.
So for example, one of the things I tested today actually, is, as I said, I got to the final boss, so I have all of the biomes unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was, and this is, you don't have to do this, which I'll explain in a minute, but I started from the very first biome and did a full run of every single biome, so you just go from one biome into the next, into the next, into the next, into the next, fight the boss at the end of each biome, obviously. And I got to the last biome and then died at the final boss. And that run in total, and I was being comprehensive, I was going into every optional room, I was doing every challenge, all these things. That took me 1 hour and 25 minutes.
Gee, okay, wow.
So it's still, you can still have a meaty run if you want to go from beginning to end. But that is encompassing, I won't say a number, but several biomes. And I would say from my testing, if you are just wanting to do a run of a single biome, you can get, if you're, and this isn't like
If
to,
you're good
to
at the
insult
game.
anyone,
Yeah.
if you're competent with the gameplay and you can sort of clear through rooms at a decent clip, you can finish a biome in 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, and that's doing a bit of exploration as well. I would say if you're just beelining it, you could probably do it faster than that once you sort of know how things work and where things go, and you upgrade a few things and get some equipment, permanent resources and things like that. So it is much faster. I will also say, to your point in terms of criticisms about Returnal, as long as you are not in a boss fight or in an active combat encounter, you can pause and quit out whenever you want, and it will save where you are. That's just active by default.
Mm.
I've tested it where I don't even pause the game. I just am in the game, hold down the PlayStation button to go back to the dashboard, close the game, reopen it, and it's booting me up into the exact same room, exact same spot that I was. So you have that flexibility, which they did add post-launch to Returnal as well,
Hmm.
but it's here from the beginning. So they have the flexibility, they have the shorter run times, and to top that off, Kev, I said you don't have to start from the beginning and run all the way through. They've made a note of this in pre-launch coverage and trailers, but there is, in the hub, there is a teleporter that you can use, and you can choose which of the biomes you want to jump to. Obviously, as long as you've unlocked it and have partially explored it, it will be added to this teleport list. So, let's say you are in the last biome and you die halfway through to a particularly difficult enemy, or you know, die to the boss.
Hmm.
If you want to, as soon as you get back to the hub, you can go down to the teleporter and jump straight back to the last biome. Obviously, it won't put you right back to the boss. It will put you at the start of that biome. But again, with how short the biome runs can be, that means you've got a considerably shorter amount of time to run back, which is different to Returnal. Obviously, there were shortcuts in Returnal, but you did have to progress through a biome to reach the shortcut teleport, which could then skip you a biome, or skip having to do a boss fight. You can, in Saros, be like, well, if I jump straight to the last biome, I'm probably going to be a little bit underpowered. So
Mm.
what I'd rather do is I'd rather go 2 biomes back from the last biome and run through those, and then it will be a 3 biome run that I do, and I'll be a little bit more powered up when I get to the last biome. So you have that modality as well, where if you want to do a full length run, you can. If you want to do, 4 biomes or whatever amount of biomes, up to you entirely based on how much time you have, what you're feeling, what your objectives are. Are you going on a collectible run? Are you trying to, get a specific trophy? Did you lose to a boss and you kind of just want to get right back to it as fast as possible, even if
Hmm.
you are sacrificing some power? Housemarque is giving you the tools, which it didn't do in Returnal, and it's up to you on how you want to use them.
It's interesting. I obviously in my brain, I would be like, well, even if so if you start at the last one,
Sure.
do you have to fight the boss before you leave that biome? Like, could you explore that one, then be like, I'm not quite ready. I'm gonna go around the other ones, then come back.
No,
No, okay. You have to
you
finish it.
can't do that. So once you enter a biome, you can either return immediately back to the hub, or you can progress through and fight the boss. And then once you fight the boss, you then have a choice of either using the teleporter just beyond the boss that is at the start of the next biome to return to the hub, or keep going. So but to your point about like not quite being ready to fight the boss, on subsequent runs of biomes. So let's say, just as an example, and this isn't specific, I'm just trying to be as nebulous as possible. Let's say in a biome, it's your first run through, and you've got your set of objectives to complete. And the objective in order to reach the boss is that you need to find something to unlock a gate, let's say. That thing to unlock the gate is all the way over there. So you're venturing through the entirety of the biome, going all the way through, and then you come back, or you use something over there to jump back to that point, and then you can unlock it and fight the boss, and the boss is right there. On subsequent runs, that door is immediately open.
Oh, okay.
So it's up to you again on whether you've been through biomes prior or whether you're jumping straight in. Do you want to say, okay, I'll go through the introductory part of this biome, reach that branch in the path, and say, I don't think that I'm going to be good enough or strong enough to fight the boss yet. I'll go through the rest of the biome as I did prior, power up, and then come back and fight the boss. Or if you just want to beeline through it, for whatever reason you might have, then you can jump straight into fighting the boss as well. So again, it is just more and more modality. You can really approach this game however you want.
That's awesome. I like that. It gives you a sense of progression.
Yeah.
That stays. That's always what I don't jump into roguelites often, but that's what I really look for when I do. It's like I don't like to feel like I have to do everything all over again. So I like that. Let's say on the gameplay, obviously they made a big deal of the new, like you get a shield, and like there's different mechanics that are at your disposal that weren't in Returnal. Do you want to talk about how that changes the way you play compared to Returnal? Maybe some of the new weapons, abilities, whatever you want to get into. Obviously, don't need to spoil everything, but maybe some your favorites or early ones.
Yeah, I mean, I won't get into specifics because I think that discovering the abilities that you unlock and the weapons you find is part of the fun. And also, there are technically some things that I just can't talk about. Period. But I think that if you are acclimatized to any roguelite, even Metroidvanias, if we want to rope that in as well, in terms of you get a tool in area 5, and I'm not talking about Saros here, I'm just talking about let's take Prince of Persia Lost Crown. In area 5 you find something that you can use in every other prior area where I can't do anything with that yet, or what do I do with this? And you're like, oh, the pieces click into place. Saros does that.
Some of that.
Yeah, Returnal did that for sure as well, with the equipment you were unlocking. And I will say, without revealing anything, the weapon selection, the abilities that you gain are pretty awesome across the board. As you would expect, they make fantastic use of the DualSense, for the haptics, the triggers, the sound, everything is on point, just like Returnal was. In terms of the shield, I think that is probably the most important thing, especially for people that might have just dabbled in Returnal. So in Returnal, really you had two things you could do in combat, which was shoot and dash. And the dash, gave you iframes that you could use to dodge through projectiles. And you can jump over them, obviously. You really can't do that in Saros. Like you can jump over projectiles for sure, and there are projectiles you can dash through. But if you are trying to just do that and play Saros the exact same way that you would play Returnal, you aren't going to do very well. And trust me, it's coming from someone who had Returnal hardwired in their brain in the first few hours. The shield is there for a reason. And prior to release, Housemarque, they were like, Returnal was a bullet hell. We don't really like using that phrase here. We want to use bullet ballet. And before getting my hands on the game, I was like, all right, potato, potato, kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
like,
A little
what does that
marketing
really mean?
speak. Yeah.
What's the difference? Fresh coat of paint and all that. But it really is as cliche as it is, a game changer, because the way that the enemies are designed, their attack patterns, environmental puzzles, platforming, various different things are specifically designed about interactions with your shield. So, you might pass through a tunnel that is being bombarded with projectiles that you literally won't be able to make it through unscathed without holding up your shield. There are specific enemy attacks that fly at you that there is no way to feasibly avoid without bringing up your shield. And there is more functionality, I'll say, that the shield unlocks as you go, that further adds complexities to
Mhm.
combat encounters. But the difficulty is that there are different types of projectiles. So you will have seen it in trailers. There are the blue projectiles, yellow projectiles, and red projectiles.
Mhm.
Not every enemy can fire every type, but that's where the sort of learning curve comes in. We have to acclimatize with what enemies are in what biome, what can they fire, what do their attack patterns look like. So blue projectiles you can dash through perfectly fine. If you want to, you can also just bring up your shield, absorb them, no problem. When you absorb those projectiles, you essentially that essentially funnels into your ultimate meter, if you want to reduce it to that, where it powers up a very potent weapon that you have at your disposal. So again, you're incentivized to use the shield because it recharges this thing that you can use to deal devastating damage to enemies. Yellow projectiles, you can also dash through, but if you bring up your shield, it will still absorb them, but it will add corruption, which adds a semi-permanent debuff to your health bar,
It
essentially.
they had something similar in Returnal. Was it called corruption in Returnal too, or was it some?
Along those lines, I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, so it's a risk reward thing
Mhm.
where you can absorb them, and you can make it easier for yourself and just bring up the shield and absorb them, but you will trade off your health for that. And the good thing is that the yellow projectiles will still contribute to charging up your weapon, and you can actually clear that that chunk that you built up, however many you absorb, the bigger the chunk, obviously. You can clear that by then using your
Mm.
ultimate. Again, you will have to then replenish your health naturally. It doesn't just bounce back up
Yeah, yeah,
automatically. But that's the risk reward way. There's a trade off. Red, you just want to avoid.
yeah.
Like the plague. You can't dash through them, you can't absorb them. It will break your shield if you try. So you really are like ballet, sort of
Mhm.
dancing between the different types of projectiles. It is very similar, obviously very different types of games. But the closest thing I could compare it to for like a tangible comparison that you would know is Doom: The Dark Ages,
Oh.
where in that game you have the shield and you have enemies firing lots of projectiles at you.
Yep.
Some move a lot faster, some move slower, different colors. I think in Doom it was green ones you could parry
Yes.
or
Yep.
something. It's like that, where you start to learn what enemies fire out, what attack patterns, where do you need to be, when do you need to bring up the shield, that kind of thing. So they have evolved the gameplay in Returnal, and I think I even had this concern where the shield was going to be like a cop out, like a easy
Mhm.
win button. Just bring it up, and you can just absorb the projectiles. Who cares? You can't keep up the shield, because keeping up the shield for too long without absorbing projectiles then depletes your ultimate charge. So it's then using up that reserve that you've built up. So it is a thing that you have to use sparingly but often, to get yourself out of a tight fit. I will also say, and this is going to sound bad, I know. Please don't be scared, people. There are a hell of a lot more bullets coming at you in this game than there was in Returnal.
Okay. I One of my questions was going to be like, how is the difficulty compared to Returnal? Is it along the same lines? Because there's no difficulty options in this game, as far as I know,
Correct.
right? Yeah. So yeah, and some people found Returnal to be quite difficult. Shout out Taylor TPR, former I played co-op with him one time for like 2 hours, and he just was constantly dying. So shout out Taylor, but other people as well found the game difficult.
Yes,
How is Saros's difficulty?
this might be the biggest sigh of relief that people can breathe. In spite of all of that I just said, I think Saros is an incredibly forgiving game.
Oh wow, I did not expect that.
Um, Now, to caveat, I think that it still does retain its difficulty, but there are mechanics within the game, not the shield, other things, that make maintaining that height of difficulty optional. So they have talked about this in trailers, and I think the gameplay that they did at the State of Play. There are things called modifiers, Carcosan modifiers.
Mm-hmm.
You unlock them relatively early in the game, and whenever you are about to go out on a run, similar to Hades, there are things that you can tweak that apply modifiers to your next run. So you could say, um, holding up the shield doesn't take up energy. So you could just hold up the shield permanently. But it's not going to block everything, but it's not going to drain your energy by keeping the shield up. That would make maybe it easier for you in hectic fights if you're not ready to just continually press R1 and bring the shield up at just the perfect time. You could do that. Or you could say, whenever you kill a boss, your revive is replenished, or um, the amount of currency that you get is doubled. Now, here's the interesting part, though. You can make it easy in that sense, but they've implemented a mechanic in the game that requires balance.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have seen there's like a dial that goes back and forth, and you can select positive and negative modifiers. Each of the modifiers that you apply adds a specific amount to this dial, one way or the other. You have to keep that dial within the sort of middle section. You can't start a run if you just apply tons of positive modifiers and nothing negative. So you can scroll through the amount of different modifiers that are there, the positive ones, and you can say, okay, well, I really struggle with this, or I
Mm-hmm.
could use a hand in this case. I would like to be able to dash through and block red projectiles. You can do that, but it's going to cost you a fair amount on that dial. So you'll then have to go to the negative modifiers and say, okay, well, I don't really want to not have a revive. That seems a bit extreme,
Mm-hmm.
but I could trade off the fact that the currency that drops disappears faster, right? So you can tweak the settings there and refine exactly how difficult you want it to be. You don't have to apply modifiers if
Interesting.
you don't want to. And you can find what works for you to make your gameplay experience per run
Mm-hmm.
easier.
That's like a custom difficulty
Yes,
almost.
exactly.
Like I think I know we compared to Doom the Dark Ages a lot, but that was a big thing for making it accessible, not by lowering the difficulty. Although I do think they had difficulties, but you could customize like how fast do the bullets come at you, and like
Sure.
what's the parry. Like they allowed you such detail. This isn't quite that, but it's a similar concept of let's make the players, because what you did for your runs would not be the same as probably what I do for my runs,
No,
because we probably
no.
have different play style. Like everyone can have unique runs. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And I would like that to really, if anybody is going to take anything away from this, obviously I very, 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 very strongly recommend the game to
Mm-hmm.
people. But I think that the thing that is incumbent on me, and I know that this is again difficult because I have that sort of bias of being such a big fan already. I want people to know that tried Returnal and maybe liked the gameplay, but found it a bit too impenetrable or a bit too difficult, or you got frustrated with the lack of progression or whatever. I really highly encourage you to give Saros a go. I know that it's 70. Like, I get that it's a full price
Mm-hmm.
game. It's worth that money to me, and that's not just being a fan. It's like the amount of content that it gives you, wholly worth that money. I would say that, you know, Sony, rightly or wrongly, gets lambasted a lot. It's the sad dad third person walking
Mm-hmm.
sims with tons of cutscenes and focus on fidelity. Housemarque went hold my beer and said, as they've said multiple times, they're a gameplay first studio. I'm going to say something maybe a little bit crazy, but I really kind of do believe it. I know I'm in the heat of the moment currently. I think that Saros has some of the best gameplay I've ever experienced in a game,
Wow.
period. And they're doing that alongside, incredible visuals, which it has, amazing sound design, a wonderful soundtrack, um, fantastic boss design, environmental variation. They have cinematic presentation, wonderful voice performances. It's giving you really the complete package. And I think that it is the answer to what a lot of people say that they are kind of been missing from Sony for a long time. And in my opinion, Returnal provided that. But Saros really does give it to you in a much, much, much more digestible, approachable, wider appeal package. And they've done that, again, talking about the balance, which I started off with. They've managed to strike that perfect balance. They've managed to make it much more appealing to a wider audience without sacrificing that difficulty that I find the alluring part.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can keep it difficult. I don't have to add these easier things. I'm not frustrated by the fact that the runs through biomes are shorter, because I can make it a little bit more difficult, and that makes the clearing the rooms harder. So that they're wizards. I think that they are certainly the most underrated, overlooked first party team. I expect Saros to be nominated for Game of the Year.
Wow.
So, like, I will be
It's a stacked
perplexed.
year. It's a
I
stacked
mean,
year,
I know it
man.
is. I know it is. But Saros is that good. I think that anybody that picks it up and tries it, and gives it, a fair shake, will realize that it isn't just Returnal 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
It is a fantastic game in its own right. And I won't say who I was speaking to, but I was speaking to somebody prior to launch, talking about, what were our thoughts and our feelings. And you'll see reviews coming out, obviously, when this goes live.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that I will be with the majority, but they made a point to say, and they'll know who they are. Whether they watch this or not, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But they said to me that Saros feels like Housemarque's Elden Ring, where Elden Ring, love it or hate it, like it or dislike it, whatever, whether it's your type of game or not, there is no denying that comparable to other FromSoft titles, it is way more approachable.
Mm-hmm.
It's far easier in a lot of circumstances. The difficulty is still there. They don't betray the DNA of what a FromSoft game is, but they put it in a different package that I think widens the appeal. And you saw that success with Elden Ring. Not to say that Saros is going to sell, the amount of
30
copies that
million.
Elden Ring did. But I really sincerely, like, truly, not even from a fanboy of the studio position, I really hope that Saros finds success more so than Returnal. Not just critical acclaim, but like it sells well, that people do give it a chance. Because if you're looking for gameplay, if you're looking for a AAA roguelite, if you're looking for a just bombastic, like frenetic gameplay in the moment, it doesn't get better than this. Like, truly, it does not get better than this. If you don't support Saros, then I don't know what kind of game you're looking for, really. I know that Saros isn't going to be a game for everyone, to be clear. But I think anybody that goes, yeah, well, I didn't like Returnal, so I'm just not even going to give this a passing glance. You're doing yourself and the game and the studio a disservice because they put something together that's incredibly magical.
Ringing endorsement, certainly. I was gonna. The only thing I have left to ask is, you're playing on PS5 Pro, I assume. I
Yep.
assume everything is beautiful. There's like 60, lock 60, like no issues.
No crashes, no
Yeah.
frame drops, perfectly smooth, buttery. And again, speaking to a couple of people playing it on base PS5s as well, I have heard no issues there either.
Great, fantastic. That's all. That's the only other thing I wanted to know. Ringing endorsement for Saros, everyone. Certainly, if that sounds up your alley, go check it out. Whether it's at launch for $70, or you wait for a sale, like support the studio, especially now when we've seen PlayStation close, Blue Point. Like we got to support the teams that are
I
making the games you
swear
want.
to God, Kev,
That I'm not.
if they
We're
dare
not even
touch
gonna talk about
Housemarque,
it. We're not even gonna will it. We're not even gonna put it out in the ether because that'd be unforgivable.
this deserves to be Housemarque's like true breakout,
Mm-hmm.
and it should be.
Hopefully, I'm rooting for it. Hopefully, it is. I think it will do better than Returnal. Just from everything I've seen, and certainly hearing your review, which I have no doubt you will be among the majority of critics as well. So yeah, rooting for Saros. We will see where it lands. Well, I'll be sleeping when this goes live, but you might be sleeping too. I don't know what time you wake up.
No, I'm an early bird as well.
Oh,
I'm not.
you
My
you
sleep
just
schedule is completely destroyed. So
the man stays up late and wakes up early. Make it make
yeah,
sense. Make
I'm
it
running
make
on
sense.
fumes
Yeah.
perpetually.
So I'll check out those reviews when I wake up bright and early tomorrow, but rooting for it. All right. Well, unless you have anything else, we can transition to our next topic. And that
Yeah.
is all the Xbox news that broke
Ooh.
today, because it has been quite a day over in Xbox land. We're going to start with news that actually broke a few days ago and then move in because when I was writing this document, I was like, okay, we'll just talk about this one Xbox topic, and then they just coming out with more and more stuff. I'm like, I can't pick and choose what major topic we're going to talk about. So we're going to start with this Xbox Game Pass price decrease, everyone. Yes, I know. Didn't expect that word to come out of my mouth. So, Xbox announced on Tuesday that effective immediately, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass were getting price decreases. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate has gone from $30 a month to $23 a month, while PC Game Pass drops from $16.50 to $14 a month. However, there is a caveat. Call of Duty will no longer be included in either subscription tier on day one. Xbox says Call of Duty will be added around a year later next holiday season. I'm going to stop there before we dive in because there's plenty more, but we'll talk about the price decreases and the removal of Call of Duty. You've been talking a while. Why don't I start? Give you a
Sure.
little chance to get some water. I want to say right off the bat, price decrease, awesome. I am fully in support of lowering the price of both these subscription services.
Amen.
I will never argue against giving consumers a better deal, a better value. Your money goes further. You can now get more for less. That's always going to be a great thing. I do, however, want to just put a little asterisk, and this is where I put my skepticism hat on. And some people may say, "Oh, I'm being too negative," and I'm not trying to be negative. I think overall this is a good change. This is a positive change. This obviously makes it more affordable for people who maybe left and now say, hey, well, I couldn't do 30, I can do 23, or 1650 was a bit much, 14 is more reasonable. Maybe they resubscribe to Game Pass. This also allows people, that might have been priced out to to and never had Game Pass to join the server. Like, there's a lot of positives here for user acquisition, which, from what we've heard, is what Asha Sharma was brought in to do. Getting that out of the way. That's my positivity, okay? Skepticism hat on now. It's not negativity, it's skepticism. I want to make that very clear, because everything I'm about to say is just a little, this could happen, this could never happen. I think it's fair to ask the question and propose the idea, though, that Call of Duty being removed from the service does leave the door open and create a potential slippery slope for the removal of more first-party games in the future. And I think Jez Corden put out an article that said there's no plans for that right now. I will remind everyone, the plan's the plan until it's not the plan, right? That's what they said. I think you made a promise 10 years ago when you started Game Pass, especially Game Pass Ultimate. I don't even know if Ultimate exists, when it might have just been Game Pass, right? That Xbox first party games would be put into Game Pass day one. You told us for years the Bethesda acquisition was about getting you exclusives on Game Pass day one. You told us the ABK acquisition was about bringing more content to Game Pass subscribers. And it's not to say I don't understand why Call of Duty is leaving. I fully understand it's lost hundreds of $1 million being in the service. But that is not the consumer's fault. You made promises, and now all I see is you reneging on those promises and saying, well, you get day one games, just not this one. And I can't help but feel that when we see Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 5, when you get heavy hitter, high budget titles, there's going to be a conversation that says, well, we would probably make more money selling these titles than putting it into Game Pass. This had a $300 million budget. We would recruit more of that if it's not on our subscription service. Well, what about day one on game? Yeah, well, we've already done it with Call of Duty. Let's just say, this is another exception. But don't worry. Everything else, still good. It's just these two, just these three. Like, it just creates the opening they need to constantly have wiggle room and devalue Game Pass in the future. Now, whether that happens or not remains to be seen. But I think it's fair to, like, if they came out in 3 years when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out and said that, I wouldn't be surprised. I think other people might be, but I'm sitting here having this conversation and I'm like, no, if that happens, I would be vindicated in my skepticism. I will again remain positive about this change, but I think it's a fair point to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I said was possibly going to happen, right? When we were talking about it, I said, well, maybe the compromise is taking Call of Duty out, and therefore being able to lower the price slightly. And how much of a fuss are people going to kick up if it's Call of Duty? How many Call of Duty players or solo Call of Duty players are in Game Pass for Call of Duty? And it's clear that they probably made that equation and realized that it's not that many that they're willing to sacrifice it.
Mm-hmm.
But everything you said is completely true. I think that just like, and obviously different person in charge now, but go back to the business update and Phil saying, well, it's just these 4 that's going elsewhere. It's not a fundamental change to our exclusive strategy. So, okay, well, yes, right now they can say, well, yeah, we're only taking Call of Duty out.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it becomes inconvenient to just have it be only Call of Duty that comes out, what could go next? Because, love it or hate it, when things like Forza Horizon 6 sells better on PlayStation 5 than Xbox. And you're like, well, why is that? Well, because it's a la carte on PlayStation and it's in Game Pass on Xbox. How many Xbox Game Pass subscribers did we gain when Forza Horizon 6 came out? Probably not that many, right? You'll gain some, sure, but how many? How long did they stay subscribed? All of these things that they have to factor in, rather than just going, well, if you want to play the game when it comes out, you just pay us the full price. It's a win technically for a consumer, because then you have the game. Like you know, when you unsubscribe from Game Pass, you no longer have access to the library. But yeah, I think that this is the unfortunate Band-Aid rip that they had to do. It felt like the only thing really that they could do, which we spoke about. We said, like, if they did anything else,
last week we spoke about it.
If they did anything else other than this, I think that there would have been considerable backlash. And I think general sentiment is people mostly just accepting this and being like, yeah, we kind of saw it coming. Like, sucks, but you know, still a win at the end of the day. That's true. I would like to remain optimistic. I'm not going to say that Microsoft has really given me much cause to be optimistic the past few years, but you know, Asher is new, so I'm willing to give a little bit of leeway.
And she's will also saying the right thing.
Sure.
I don't want to come across negative. Oh, I don't trust Asher Sharma. She is saying the correct things, I think,
and doing some of the right things.
Small wins, and I think I was talking about this in the expansion pass Discord. Small wins can add up and inspire big wins, but I do think we need to keep everything in check until we actually get some big wins, because this is awesome, but not much has changed in the landscape, and not much for even Project Helix or their future at the moment looks like it's going to change. Like, if you'd asked me a year ago, like, I still hold the same opinion for the future of Xbox as I did a year ago.
Yeah. And like, you know, that they're taking Call of Duty out. Okay, so they're going to make more money per year on Call of Duty releases, assumedly, unless something really goes to pot. So that's fine. So the lost revenue they have from not having $30 Game Pass anymore, they'll make up in for and then some with the new refreshed Call of Duty revenue. Great. Okay, but then when Helix comes around, we're going to assume that the live requirement goes.
Has to, yep.
So you're going to have some casuals unsubscribing from Game Pass on the lower tiers because they won't need it anymore, assuming that they upgrade to Helix, right? Because I think that they would, maybe controversial, I assume that they're probably going to keep the requirement for the series consoles, even when Helix comes out.
I don't think they can. I think when Project Helix comes, you have to get rid of it. You can't just say it's only for this console.
But then they're losing even more money doing that, and it's going to have to be made up somewhere else. They're losing the revenue on Game Pass subs now. Obviously, again, making up for it specifically with Call of Duty. That's the trade-off they're making.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're making the trade is the trade-off the fact that Helix is going to be super expensive. So the people buying Helixes are subsidizing the potential lost revenue of people bouncing off of the lower tier that are just there for multiplayer. I don't know. But like, there's no doubt that all these are wins. But when it's wins that is, even in the short term, costing them some money, they can't keep doing that.
It's one of those things, and I've heard people say this, on even podcasts that I would consider friends of the show, where, we're the consumers, we shouldn't care about their financials, and that's a different type of podcast than the one you come here for. This is very much like, we both like digging into the weeds of how these companies operate, and think it's important part of the gaming industry. We cover games. We just spent an hour talking about games we've been playing and everything. But I do think this is an important piece, and it goes back to, I still don't understand how Helix makes any money. Like, you can charge a high price for the console, but once you're in the ecosystem, once you're, or not, you don't even need to be in their ecosystem. You can be on the Steam portion of, if Steam is on the platform, which we all assume it's going to be. Like, I still don't understand the model for making money on this platform if it's not just, oh, we're going to sell an expensive piece of hardware and take the 20% markup we're going to get on the hardware. Like, that's not a viable console business to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's difficult. And it's going to, again, it's incumbent on them to explain that to us and to present the vision and commit to it and execute well. But like, talking about going back to specifically the Game Pass of it all, you said about, they 10 years ago, whatever, made that commitment, and, to give them leeway at that time, they didn't foresee, I'm sure, purchasing Bethesda or ABK.
Damn, Sam Heaney giving them a leeway.
I know, Christ, where are we? Uncharted waters here. So, I think that it's fair because, like, that is the precedent that they set, and up until now, they have committed to that, right? And it's going to blow your mind even more. Kudos to them for committing to it for as long as they have, but that doesn't mean that it makes sense.
Oh yeah, no.
And with the price increases of Game Pass and now taking Call of Duty out, it's just proof and proof and proof that Game Pass, to varying degrees, hasn't been working. Stagnant subscriber growth, all those things. So really, what I think in retrospect, as a fun little aside, what they should have done, and I've been thinking about this since the news broke, when they bought ABK, this would have reneged on that initial promise that you spoke about. But I think what they should have done is from the start say that Call of Duty is not going to be in Game Pass day one. Could come 6 months later, whatever, have a little buffer period. But the trade-off is that, and this is what the point that they're probably going to get to now, stumbling over themselves, the revenue that they get from Call of Duty, they can then reinvest into Game Pass to get more of the day ones, of other things, of indies, of double A's, of some triple A's. So yes, you're not going to get Call of Duty day one in Game Pass, but because we now own Call of Duty, we're making that billion plus whatever a year. We're going to take some of that money, obviously, to fund the next Call of Duty development, but some of the additional revenue we're going to collect together, and we're going to say, okay, in lieu of you not getting Call of Duty on Game Pass, we're going to make sure that the Call of Duty money gets you more stuff on Game Pass. And I think, like I say, that's maybe where they're heading now, but they've done it in a sort of ass backwards way where, and we've said, again, to be fair, that they did have to, they probably did have to try to put Call of Duty in Game Pass.
Because in another world, it does boost subscribers significantly.
Sure.
That's just not this one.
No. And I could make an argument to understand why they didn't take it out after the first year, because Black Ops 6 was received very well. And, you don't have a pattern, right? You just have an example. And I'm sure that they baked in the fact that they were going to lose money, obviously, through people playing on Game Pass. But then obviously Black Ops 7 happened, and that speaks for itself. I'm sure they lost even more money because less people in general were buying it. And they take it out now. So if there is a time to do it, it's now. So that's why they've done it. But I think that they probably could have had people in the room making the kind of decision that I've just proposed or something similar back then, because I'm sure that there were alarm bells ringing when they bought ABK of like, because it was what's her name?
Starts with an L, yeah. Lou? Is that her name? Is that who you're thinking of?
Because I'm thinking of, I've got Tim Stewart in my head. It's the financial one, isn't it? That's who I'm thinking of. The woman who runs the money. Why can I never?
Oh,
The one time I need to remember her name.
Amy, is it Amy?
Amy Hood.
Amy Hood, yes.
That's it.
We got there in the end.
Yeah, we got there. She said was worrying about Game Pass building a moat around Xbox, of it just sort of being impenetrable. Yes, the people that are in, but you're really not going to entice anybody in, and that has been proven correct with the price increases and everything. So they were between a rock and a hard place, because you can't keep Call of Duty in because it's not doing what you need it to do in order to justify keeping it in. But keeping it out, but taking it out does set that dangerous precedent. And in the exact same way, unfortunately, that the whole like case by case basis for exclusivity debacle happened for years with Microsoft. That same argument is now coming from the angle of protecting revenue per title, because the reason that they're taking Call of Duty out is to make sure that they don't lose that 300 million a year. But if that's the justification for taking Call of Duty out, well, how much money are you going to lose on, again, having the Elder Scrolls 6s, the Fallout 5s, the Forza Horizon 7s of the world in Game Pass? Probably comparable amounts. Maybe not as much, because COD is its own thing. But
and those aren't yearly franchises.
Sure. But that might even sway it in the opposite direction, where because they aren't yearly, it's more of a big moment. And those franchises are, I think, it sounds crazy to say in comparison to COD, but in terms of the gaming space outside of casuals, more widespread appeal. You know, I would say that in terms of like when you're talking about gamers with a Z, they're probably more excited about Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 than they are for whatever the next Call of Duty is, right? So I don't know, like, if in the same way that, like, oh, if you're putting Sea of Thieves or Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation to make more money and to grow its audience, then why would Halo not go to PlayStation to grow its audience and make more money? The same is happening now, I think, where they might, again, like you said right at the beginning, this might not happen. They might not commit to that and sort of bite the apple, so to speak, listen to the snake and be like, oh, there's money over there, you say. They might not do that, but they've also opened up the door enough to allow them to do that if they chose to. And if the moves that they're making now don't result in that regaining of trust, the rebuilding of the brand, the devotion again, the excitement around the brand, people buying the consoles, buying the games, if that doesn't materialize, then the execs and the board are going to come back in and say, you know, those mandates that we eased up on, they're back.
It's been apparent for a while now that Call of Duty was a problem child for them, because even when they rebranded to Ultimate Premium and Essential, Premium had an asterisk that said Call of Duty's not coming to this tier after a year. Every other first party comes after a year. And then Ultimate was like, you still get Call of Duty. Now they've made it Ultimate doesn't get Call of Duty, PC doesn't get Call of Duty, and it will come to those after a year, and Premium still doesn't get it after a year. So like you have this whole hierarchy now where it's like this one gets first party, not this first party. This one gets them a year later, but not this first. Like, I don't like the convoluted tiers that they currently have, and I suspect things are gonna change, and that is a nice segue into something else that Jez Corden over at Windows Central was reporting, where he says, quote, Microsoft sources tell me that a pick your own plan formula for Game Pass is in the cards. We have another Game Pass topic to discuss after this as well. But this is something that I have been saying probably 2 years at this point. I know I think I even talked about it last week, where I was talking about that modular Game Pass where you start with, oh, I want day one Xbox first party games, and then you add on and you see the price go up and down in real time, so you can make those choices. Like, I don't really want Fortnite Crew, I don't need EA Play, I don't need Cloud Stream. Like, I have asked for that for literally years. I think when they started to raise the price of Game Pass Ultimate from that $15 price point, then went to 18, 20. And it was always like, oh, well, we added EA Play. I'm like, that's great, but I don't really care about EA Play. Oh, well, we added cloud. That's great. I don't care about cloud gaming. I always wanted an option to remove those, get me back down to the price point that was like $15, as I said again last week. Like, such a no-brainer price. Like, it was the best value in gaming, the best deal in game. Like, the headlines, the quotes wrote themselves. So I think this would be a phenomenal idea. This would fundamentally change Game Pass. Do they keep tiers? Like, is this something that launches with Project Helix? Do we see it before Project Helix? Does it get scrapped like that Game Pass family plan that never materialized but was tested in certain markets, right? Like, this is one of those things that I'm glad they're talking about it internally. I hope it comes to fruition. And I would personally like just scrap the tiers and make this the default option. Let people pick what they want. And I worry. I how do I say this? I worry for Microsoft that giving people this option would lead to an incredible loss of revenue,
Yep.
but it would be way better for consumers. So
Yeah.
maybe it appeals to more people to join the service. And do you make more money on 50 million people at an $8 tier as opposed to 34 million and 27 of them have the $23 tier? You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to know the calculations there, because I think this would be great for consumers, but I worry Microsoft will run the numbers and not want to do it.
Yeah. I mean, you sort of flagged my position on it at the end there, where I was like, I'm going to be in direct opposition to Kev on this one.
Mm.
But you sort of started making the point where, again, like the price decrease, like undeniable W, the idea of being able to just pick what you want and that having that modality would be great in theory. But I don't know that Microsoft is going to be willing to, if we're being honest, take what would be a risk on the idea of maybe pulling in or regaining subscribers by having that modality. Because one, it might not pay off. They might not gain massive amounts of subscribers by doing it. And then if they don't do that, then they would maybe then have to change Game Pass again back to what it is now.
Upsetting people.
Yeah, exactly. Or they do get lots of subscribers back, which is a win for them, but they're coming in at lower costs in terms of the subscription. Because the problem with the modality, as cool as it is on paper and would be good for consumers, inherently the node to switch toggle on that would be the most expensive is first party day one. It would have to be, because if it's not, then everybody is just going to be on that and abuse it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like when you're thinking about how much, if we're saying the max you can go to if you toggle everything on is $30 a month if you want everything toggled on, what is the price per month of first party? Because again, you're not guaranteed to be subscribed for several months in a row.
So I don't have, not to interrupt, I don't have a direct answer for that. I do take your mind back a few years. You may remember a tier called Game Pass Console.
Yes.
Where this did not include online, but it did include the game catalog, including first party games. And that was $10 a month.
Yeah.
So if you remove those catalog games and it's just Xbox's first party, are we saying, and maybe inflation is, are we saying, let's just say $10 a month would be the starting point for Xbox first party games day one? Because that personally, like, Xbox puts out a good amount of games. Like that's not something I need monthly subscription though. Like when for me, um, it's hard to wrap my mind around what that looks
But yeah,
because the
that,
idea was you get the other catalog there too at that price point.
yeah, but then the issue becomes is that again it's the risk and frankly risk mitigation that Microsoft would lean towards, as every game company is currently. They're not into taking risks. They want safe
Mm-hmm.
bets. They don't want to jeopardize revenue. They don't want to jeopardize margins. The problem with like, and again, I don't think that you're wrong in terms of the sort of $10 thing of Game Pass console, whatever. But obviously, dynamics have changed. Games have gotten more expensive to make. They're pumping out more games per year, most of which are now sort of actively competing with one another. But also, that means that we're in a world where they're ramping up the amount of games that they're putting out, and on the whole, the game's quality is improving and also the games are costing more, and that sometimes goes hand in hand with the quality, of course, not always. But that would then mean that like you or me could subscribe halfway through a given year once we know 2 or 3 games from Xbox have come out, subscribe for a month and be able to finish again those 2 or 3 games that we want to play within a month, and we've given Xbox $10.
I mean, that's how we do it now for certain.
Exactly,
Like
exactly, and that's already unsustainable. They aren't doing that anymore, really.
Yeah, which I've heard, and again, nobody's confirmed this to me, but I did hear that like Xbox isn't doing refunds anymore for Game Pass, which I don't know. I have not seen that report anywhere. That was like a one-off comment on another podcast I heard. I haven't subscribed to Game Pass. Like I canceled a few days before that, so I'm like, PC Game Pass now $14. I'm like, you made it cheaper for me to hop in and play the games I want within like a week span, cancel and get my money back. Like I've done that multiple times now. And exactly what you said, we would both do like the only Xbox game right now I'm like, I'm buying this is Fable. Because I love Fable as a franchise. I don't want to feel constrained to beat that game, knowing how big it probably is in a time. So I'm like, I'm just gonna buy that. Like that's a better financial choice. But for games like Super Meat Boy 3D, right? Like I think there was an ID at Xbox Showcase today, like a Felion from Don't Nod is coming. Like that's coming to game. Like those types of experience where I'm like, I don't need to own this forever. I'm more than happy to just subscribe for like a week and a half, play those shorter experiences, and then get a refund. And I would do that for I did that for Ninja Gaiden 4, and I love Ninja Gaiden. Like if Xbox allowed me to do that, I would.
Yeah. And again, to be fair in our commentary, I don't think would make up the majority in terms of habits and behaviors, but still that is there. And even if the more sort of casual subscriber to Game Pass, which you could argue, are there really casual subscribers to Game Pass at the price that it's even at now, let alone 30? That they might not be bouncing in and out and getting refunds like we've done, abuse the system fully. But even if, a casual was subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate at $30 for 3 months, they've given Xbox 90 and played, I don't know, let's say, not necessarily to completion, but somewhere between 6 to 10 games in those 3 months. Dabbled a little bit, maybe finished 1 or 2 games. I still don't think that is a good enough value proposition for Xbox. And again, like talking about like not to jump the shark, but the statement that they put out today about their North Star being daily active players, like it's telling in the way that they're speaking and what they're choosing to focus on, that they aren't trying to paint the picture that for them to succeed, they need to make lots of money and sell lots of copies of games or sell lots of consoles, because I think that they know that even with these moves, it's relatively unlikely that they're going to regain that much ground. Certainly not in the short to midterm. Long term, who knows? But again, long term with Microsoft, I think is a sketchy bet anyway, considering how much they change tact and their opinions on their business.
Yeah, well,
So
6 years ago we had the promise of exclusives. They bought Bethesda for exclusive, like, and then it became ABK game, like Game Pass became the big thing. Then I feel like I said this, the last year has been Play Anywhere has been the big thing, like getting multi-platform on every screen imaginable. And I do feel like Asha Sharma has come in and be like, we're making a next gen console, whatever that looks like. We'll still wait to see the full details, but she is saying it's good to see them notice Game Pass as an issue, because Game Pass used to be their big talking point, their big driver, the thing that they had that the other two platforms didn't, that used to actually be a like it did bring people in. It was
sure.
a reason to come to Xbox. And I feel like we lost that over the years. So to see her making these moves is beneficial, despite all the little caveats and worries and whatever the hell it's going to look like when Helix comes out and into the future. Cause it's, yeah, it's the whole modular thing. I'm still, again, consumer standpoint, would love it, but after this conversation, I'm really worried Microsoft's never going to do it.
Yeah, like the skeptic, like the hardcore skeptic in me is concerned. And obviously they have been making some actual like tangible moves.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't like in entirety correct. But I am concerned that at least a portion of what Asher and Matt and all of the Xbox socials are doing is like virtue signaling a little bit, of like telling you what you want to hear, saying all the right things, and not really meaning it. Like, when we
Yeah, yeah,
first had
yeah.
Asher coming in, we were like, well, she's gonna say these things, and
Mm-hmm.
also, the plan is the plan till it's not the plan. I don't know what I'm doing. I have to learn all of this. I feel like even in the verbiage to this day,
Yes.
where she's in the role, she's sort of again leaving lots of different doors open very subtly to be like, we'll learn, we'll figure out, we'll tweak, we'll improve. It's like, well, what do those words mean? I prefer just like this is what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Well, I mean, they ended the Game Pass decrease post with we'll continue to listen and learn to continue to shape what like I'm paraphrasing, but like they
Sure,
did
yeah.
basically tell us Game Pass, this is not the final, not even my final form.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we have another Game Pass thing to talk about, and then you already teased it. We will jump into that letter that Asha and Matt, I almost call him Mike. His name's Matt.
Mike Booty.
So this was teased by Asha Sharma on socials. She really talked up Xbox and Discord's relationship as if it didn't
Mm.
like start 2 or 3 years ago. Um, Kind of teasing some sort of Game Pass integration. There was no real announcement, but people have data mined Discord in the back end and found that Discord Nitro will include a new Xbox Game Pass quote unquote starter edition. According to the leak, it will give you access to 50 plus games, including Stardew Valley, Fallout 4, and Grounded. So it looks like some form of Game Pass is going to be bundled in with Discord Nitro. How are we feeling about this new partnership? We've heard rumors of Netflix, but we got Discord.
I mean, I don't know, man. Like, again, on paper, I can see worlds in which it makes sense to do something like this. But really, what does the Venn diagram look like of people that are engaging in Discord that would want to pay more to get access to a little library of games that either aren't interested in Game Pass at all, regardless of what it offers, and don't want to pay more for their Nitro subscription, or people that are on Discord Nitro but have a higher tier of Game Pass anyway? I feel like it's a weird sort of like half step thing, that again is in some ways, I guess, bleeding into modality and options and things, which is like, I guess, fine, but I really don't know who this is for. And I am slightly disconcerted, like you say, Discord and talking about Netflix. I feel like, and if they're talking about like the pick your own plan, it's like there's so much stuff happening. It it almost feels, and this is hyperbolic, but it feels like a death burst where like it's really struggling, so it's just going to flood the field with as many different things, like Game Pass in so many different places, all the different places we can get it with so many different things bundled in.
Mm-hmm.
You can't ignore it. You're signing up for Netflix, you're going to see an option that says Xbox Game Pass, blah, 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 blah. I fear that Xbox Game Pass bundling itself with other services inherently therefore making that subscription, whether it's done through Microsoft and Xbox or done through the other party that they are partnering up with, if that gets any traction, sees any success, a subscription that would inherently be higher than the comparable Game Pass tier, I don't know that isn't just going to incentivize Microsoft to think, oh, well, they're willing to pay a higher price. Let's
So so
eke it out.
while you've been chatting about it, I did just look up to see if more information has broke while we were recording. Windows Central has a write up. So the user over on Twitter, Red PHX, was the one that found this. They're also the one that found the Triton Duet, which apparently is this tier.
Oh,
We will.
interesting. Okay.
That's what it says in this article. Microsoft seems to be gearing up to call it the Starter Edition. Previous information suggests it will have a solid offering of first-party titles, including Doom Eternal, Doom 64, Dishonored, Fable, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Hellblade, Ori, second, a bunch of other ones. It also seems that the Starter Edition will include Xbox Cloud Gaming, albeit with monthly time limits. So you can see in the screenshot of this, the code for Starter Edition, it says cloud playable game included with Game Pass, parentheses Starter Edition streaming limit, cloud playable game with Game Pass Starter Edition, game purchase required. So it does seem that you will be able to stream games including Game Pass and games that you've bought, albeit with a limited amount of time. So is this, I then ask, who's this really for? Because
Yep.
it's not for hardcore gamers on Discord, because they're not going to want to stream with limits. This tier really sounds to me more like what we all expected the cloud only or ad tier to be. People on their TVs booting up Xbox Game Pass. Oh, you get, I don't know how many, you get 40 hours a month of cloud gaming on your TV. It's like, obviously this is in testing. We don't know how much this will cost, although Jez in this article seems to think it's going to be cheaper than the essential tier, which is $10 right now. Remains to be seen, might never even happen. But I do question who this tier is for, if it is primarily cloud focused.
Yeah. And also, there is like the elephant in the room of worrying about, you said it about the ad tier. I feel like I know Discord is like a primarily sort of gaming centric comms platform. Like I understand that. But when you're also talking about partnering with a thing like Netflix, whether that comes to fruition or not, right? But like there's conversations happening, which isn't a gaming platform.
They have Netflix gaming.
What? Yeah.
You
Touche.
know,
Touche.
but the one game, they had one game. It was a
I know.
single game.
Oxenfree was on there.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Oxy, yes, that was the Netflix gaming exclusive Oxenfree 2 that drove everyone to the platform.
I liked it. Didn't play it on Netflix, but I am scared that they are looking at partnering with these outside parties that, even if like Discord tangentially related to games, have baked into its tiers ads. Like, there are talking about it in Discord, in our Discord, about Discord having ads, and obviously that's not nearly as pervasive as like other platforms or other subscriptions for sure. But Netflix, you think about ad tiers or other streaming services, and if here's the slippery slope, right? The path of logic. They're introducing these kind of tiers at varying price ranges, whatever, to try and get more people in the door, right? That's the goal.
Yes. Boost those
So
numbers.
let's say the ad tier comes out, and obviously the ad tier presumably would be the cheapest of all tiers, right?
Yeah.
So you get people in. If those people stay, that's when price creep starts happening, because they'll say, okay, well, the ad tier is going up in price. It's still going to be cheaper, but it's going to be more expensive than it was. It's cheaper than other tiers, but it's going to be more expensive than it was. And they might even, again, like restrict cloud hours, or even, Christ, if they went extreme actual play time, which would be crazy. But then that's how they bait people into being like, okay, well, I'd be paying more for the ad tier, but the non-ad tier is only X amount of dollars more. So I might as well, if I'm having to pay more anyway, just take the extra little leap to get up.
So
That's dangerous.
I have a question. We're talking about ad tiers, right? And I think this is Jose over at the Nerd Chat brought this up. If you could get Game Pass Ultimate at a even cheaper price right now, same benefits, and they were like, you're just gonna have to watch a 3-minute ad every hour. Like I think of the way, like when I boot up Peacock, or I think Paramount Plus, right? For movies, they do a big chunk of ads at the start. So I will I'll start a Peacock movie. I get 3 minutes of ads, and then I watch my movie, and there's no ads throughout. TV shows is kind of interspersed throughout, which is kind of more annoying. Would people be more okay with ads if it was just like you boot up a game, you get 3 minutes of ads, and then you can just play your game unrestricted for a certain amount of time? I personally would hate that still. Like, imagine you're in the middle of a cutscene and then, time for your 3-minute ad. But like, I think that's intrusive. I would not want that in the games, but there might be people out there who wouldn't care about that.
Screw them, I would say. Like, the problem with that, like, I mean, you point out, is like there's just no way that you can functionally implement that, because it would mean that every single game that's in the service would have to have some kind of amendment made to it that would internally check for an
You're right.
opportune time to pause.
It would have to be cloud streaming based.
And
or
also
something.
the issue as well is like, well, if you're playing a multiplayer game
Ooh,
and
yeah.
you're 58 minutes into your hour, and then you jump into a team deathmatch on Call of Duty or whatever, well, surely either you're going to be egregious and cut mid-match, or you're going to let the timer tick over an hour, at which point it's like, well, what are we doing here then? Because if it's not hard set, then there will be other ways, presumably, to manipulate that system. And you don't want people to do that when they're paying so little because it's an ad-based tier. So the caveat to that, the only potential workaround was that if you were playing something that couldn't pause and it then ran over the hour mark, maybe that then means that you get an extra 30-second ad to make up for the deficit when you do finish that match or something. But people would be very, very miffed about that as well. So
I think if there's ever ads, it has to be for the cloud only tier, because I don't know how else you would get ads in video games. Like, you can't have them baked into your native download. You can't you're going to require an online connection for every single game, because people would love that. And then you somehow like server feed them an ad. Like, it would have to be baked into the cloud gaming like server side, like an ad. So it doesn't alter the files.
And also, like, and again, how much this matters is subjective, but for people who
sure.
care about the art form and about the industry in general, like TV shows and streaming movies, less so obviously theatrical releases, they're designed around ad breaks, right? So they sort of have baked in from the beginning of the project, this is where there's going to be a cut, a scene change. Games don't work like that. So like inherently, regardless of whether it is a opportune time for an ad break, you are inherently going to be screwing with the pacing of that game. And again, you might be a player that just doesn't care about that at all, and that's good for you. But for someone like me or like you or plenty of other people we know that care about being immersed in our experience, and it's the escapism of it, it's not a passive experience like watching a show or a movie. You're engaging with it, you're participating. To break that up, even momentarily, can be catastrophic for immersion and for your overall experience. And if that keeps happening, even if it's not the game's fault because it's the subscription service that's forcing the ads on you, not the game, I also feel like it's dangerously close to potentially painting people's opinions of the game in a negative light, because their experience will have been disrupted and ruined because X moment in the game didn't hit quite as hard, because just before they got to the scene where the supporting character died and there was a huge emotional moment, you saw a Wendy's advert. It's like,
I was thinking Burger King.
Yeah.
It's going
Whopper.
Yeah, that's literally what it was. Junior Whopper.
And obviously that's like a bit of an exaggeratory example.
Yeah, no, it is.
You would be looking at something like that feasibly. And I just, like, we can't, I don't think we can let that happen.
I'm with you. I'm not in favor of it personally. I think we should keep that out of games, but times are changing. If that's what younger players, I think, would be more incentivized to sign up for a cloud only ad based tier, because I don't mean this with any disrespect to younger generations, but y'all just don't understand that you have to pay for good games. You don't understand the value of you're over there playing Roblox. You're like, this is just as good as a triple. And no, it isn't. You're playing garbage. You've been force fed garbage and you've accepted it. And now now you think that's what good games. It's not.
I would know.
PS5 version came out. Going back,
dude. 120 FPS is sick.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think that's all we have for Game Pass. We do have one more piece of Xbox news. We are going long today,
Hey
folks.
boy.
Uh, the we are Xbox post coming in from Asha Sharma and Matt Booty. This was posted today, so strap in. Says, "Dear team, Xbox has always been different. We started with a simple idea. Games should bring people together through shared experiences. That led to the first Xbox in 2001, Xbox Live in 2002, and new ways to connect, from friends lists to achievements to parties and play across devices. Today, Xbox reaches over 50 million players around the world with some of the most important franchises in entertainment. From the beginning, Xbox was built by people willing to try things others wouldn't. We placed a consumer bet inside an enterprise company because we believed gaming would define the living room and we were at risk of missing it. That spirit has carried us through the last 25 years and it's required to carry us forward. We have work to do. Players are frustrated. New feature drops on consoles have been less frequent. Our presence on PC isn't strong enough. Pricing is getting harder for people to keep up with, and core experiences like search, discovery, social, and personalization still feel too fragmented. Developers and publishers are asking for more, better tools, better insights, and a platform that helps them grow faster. At the same time, a new generation of players is coming online with different expectations. Their time is split across games, media, and everything else, competing for attention. They expect more content in familiar places, want to shape the worlds they play in, and want to create and socialize together, not just play together. So it's that Roblox garbage I was talking about. These changes are happening as the industry reshapes around us. Console remains large and stable. Windows now represents more players and more hours, and it is increasingly where competition is most intense. Players have access to more games than ever, even at the cost and time to build blockbuster titles continues to rise, putting pressure on what gets made and how risk is taken. Some of the biggest recent hits are coming from small teams or even single creators, and places like Roblox, are producing experiences that rival major franchises in scale. That's just a blatant lie. As I just said, blatant fucking lie.
Yep.
But more players are also choosing subscriptions and services as their primary way to play, with expectations set around instant access, ongoing value, and libraries that evolve continuously. The industry is becoming global and competitive. More than half of the market's revenue, players, and growth are happening outside of our core markets, but the rest of the world is not just a large market. Developers there are increasingly competing with the most established Western studios, combining scale, speed, and a willingness to reinvent genres many once considered mature. The model that got us here won't be the one that takes us forward. Xbox will be where the world plays. What does Xbox become in the next era? Well, Xbox will be where the world plays and creates. We will build a global platform that connects players and creators everywhere. Console is at the foundation, delivering a premium experience, and cloud brings that experience to any device. You can play where you want, and your games, progress, friends, and identity stay with you across console, PC, mobile, and cloud. Xbox will be built to be affordable, personal, and open. We will offer flexible pricing so it's easier to get started and keep playing. The experience will adapt to you, letting you customize how you play, helping you find what you'll love, and connecting you with the right people. We will be open to all creators, from individuals to the largest studios, giving anyone the tools to reach a global audience and keep their games growing over time. Our new North Star will be daily active players. We will execute this through four priorities: hardware, content, experience, and services. Hardware. We will stabilize Gen 9 as a healthy and high quality base. We will damn it. We will deliver Project Helix to lead in performance and play your console and PC games. Lead in comfortable, personal, high performance accessories. Build a strong ecosystem that expands choice and reach. Content. We will grow and extend an enduring portfolio of franchises players love. We will evolve our third party partnerships and strengthen our 5-year slate. We will expand into China, emerging markets, and mobile first audiences. We will maintain and grow in live games and long term stewardships. We will elevate creator centric platforms like Minecraft, The Elder Scrolls, and Sea of Thieves. Experience. We will fix the fundamentals for players and partners. We will make Xbox the best place for developers and creators to build and grow. We will overhaul discovery, customization, social, and personalization to connect the community. Services. We will fortify Game Pass with clear differentiation and sustainable economics. We will return the business to durable growth with strong cost discipline. We will make cloud play feel native, fast, and reliable across TVs and low cost devices. We will use merger and acquisition deliberately to accelerate growth where organic paths are too slow. Along the way, we will reevaluate our approach to exclusivity, windowing, and AI, and share more as we learn and decide. We are Xbox. To achieve our master plan, the way we work must transform. Our best work happens when the full stack, Jesus, this is a long, full stack moves together. Microsoft Gaming describes our structure, but does not describe our ambition. So we're going back to where it started and changing our team's name. We are Xbox. We are a high agency culture where wild and wonderful ideas thrive. Our job is not to smooth over our differences, but to connect everyone into something greater than any one studio or product. We have to be honest about where we are. We're a challenger, and meeting this moment will require pace, energy, and a level of self-critique that should feel uncomfortable. At our best, we earn every player, protect our art, stay rebellious, progress over perfection, signal over ceremony, core before more, outwork the problem, speed is learning, makers over managers, clarity is kindness. That's a lot of, I hadn't read those 10 bullets before. That's a lot of buzz, like LinkedIn speak. Anyway, over the last 5 years, Xbox and the industry have been through an unimaginable amount of change, and this team has continued to deliver through it for our community. Thank you for staying focused on what matters. 62 days in, we're proud of how we've honored our commitments of great games, return of Xbox, and future of play. We're here to do most creative and courageous work of our lives, and that's what we'll do together. Matt and Asha. Listen, is there a lot of PR mumbo jumbo in there? Absolutely. Overall, I think it's a good statement, but there's also quite a few talking points in there. Sam, I just read a ton. Is there a thing in here particularly that you want to jump into?
What a load of autoerotic corpos speak. It's just,
Wow.
again, it looks very nice. They're saying all the right things. Do you know what they're not telling you? An inch of how they're actually gonna do these things. They're just saying, "Oh, we're gonna grow the console. We're gonna revitalize this generation. We're gonna give you the best things and do the best stuff all the time, everywhere. We're gonna do the best things." Wait, you want to know how we're going to do that? Oh, sorry, we don't have those answers. We're not going to tell you actually, but don't worry, we're definitely going to do them, and maybe they will, But I mean, not just the bullet points that you pointed out. It just like, not to get political, right? but the Republican movement has done an excellent job, and I mean this sincerely, of being able to construct narratives that get people riled up, whether it's in a positive or a negative way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Xbox isn't necessarily like, I'm not saying they're copying that, but they're implementing similar tactics, which is like exactly what they should be doing in terms of like the corporate side. The way to get people on board is by saying lots of exciting, rambunctious things. But really, when you pick apart any of that statement, it's nothing that we didn't already know, really. They're just saying the same things they've already said 2 or 3 times. And they haven't actually laid out a plan. Like, how are they achieving these things? What are the steps that they're going to take? How are they going to grow into China and the mobile market? What does that mean? How are they going to stabilize this generation? What are they going to do? Are they going to revamp production? Are they going to decrease prices? Are they going to bring back exclusives? They don't say anything. So I feel like it's a very provocative thing to put out saying we are Xbox. We're not Microsoft Gaming anymore, guys. Trust us. Hi, fellow youth. We're Xbox again. I just don't buy it.
So, how do I phrase it? You know what this is? This is a roadmap where when before my current role, I worked at a nonprofit, and I was responsible for assisting the executive team to come up with key performance indicators and goals. And we did that through results-based accountability, which is this whole freaking thing. You know, I have a certification. But what they ultimately ended up doing is you put a lofty goal, like we want to improve this, and then you list a bunch of KPIs and you say if we meet these targets, then that will have accomplished our goal. And from my experience, a lot of the KPIs didn't ultimately actually affect that. It was just something like we can measure that and we're going to shove it into this bucket, or the goals were just mumbo jumbo that didn't mean much. They're just executive speak. It's like we want to enhance the community's trust, and I was like, what is it? Like, you're just saying things, right? Like, I understand, but this does come across corporate, no doubt, but I do view this as a roadmap where I think we should take note of this, and in, I don't know, 5 years' time, we come back and we say, how much of this have they accomplished? How have they actually improved the cloud gaming? Have they actually gone into markets like China, like Africa, like you see other companies doing, and pulling up small creators, finding these hidden gem games that might not be getting recognition? Are they actually back in the console race? Are they, all these lists of things where there are 4 bullet points here? I think we should hold them accountable. I think we need to look at them in the future
Sure.
and see how much of this they've actually accomplished. Is their third-party partnerships better? Are games still skipping the platform in 5 years? This doesn't read to me like we have all the answers right now. This reads to me very much of we have lofty ambitions. We're not giving up in the console space, but I'm not sure they know how they're going to accomplish a lot of this. I think this very much is these are the things we want to do. And now it's their job to go out and actually do them. And what that looks like is very much up in the air, I think.
Yeah. The thing that's going to convince me is if you lay out how you're going to do these things. You tell me and show me how you're doing these things. Because Sony could come out tomorrow and say, "Oh, we're gonna put out 4 first party games a year, and we're gonna make sure that we sell 200 million consoles." I'm like, okay, lofty goals, nice, cool. Would love both of those things. That would be great for the company, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
How? How? Because the pipeline that you have for your first party games ain't going to allow for first party games. So, what are the steps you're taking to do that? And when you're putting out a statement like this, to me, and again, I'm being overly skeptical, perhaps, it just reads as desperate, and that they're sort of self-admitting that it's they're in a challenger position. They're kind of
very
on the back foot,
introspective.
right? And fair, like credit to them in that regard. But I also don't know that they were in a position where they had to make this statement, right? Because yes, sure, there's some like nebulousness about what's going to happen with Xbox in the future. But I felt even without this statement that had kind of stabilized a little bit since Asher had come in. And all that this does, or all that this suggests to me, is it presents the opportunity for them to underdeliver, because they've come out really early on And like you say, they've set out a roadmap of sorts. They've put some lofty ambitions on here with, again, no actual tangible points on what they're going to do to accomplish these things, because as you say, they probably frankly don't know. But it's like, okay, so we've waited for a long time for Xbox to work itself out and to get to a point where they're pumping out games consistently. It was always the wait till next year, wait till next year. And now we're at that point and they're putting out lots of games consistently, most of which are good. That's great. But now that they've got the software side pinned down, it's like, okay, well, what WCF is going on with the hardware side? So it's just inversed. And like, sure, like, of course, with a new leadership, we have to kind of give them leeway inherently anyway. But it's like, they said when Asher came in that she was going to act with urgency. And it's like, okay, well, yes, some of the things she's already done, that is fast moving, faster than I expected, frankly, on the small wins, as we say.
Yeah.
But like the actual fundamental issues, like the reasons that Xbox is struggling, like all of the achievement update, that's nice. And cumulatively, they can add up to a win that is meaningful and changes things or wins back, whatever. But like the actual fundamental issues plaguing the system, why it's not selling, all of this, you know, they say in the statement, console is still strong. Like, what inverted, deluded rock are you living under? Xbox console sales are still plummeting, and they have been for years. Like, how is that still strong? You might be talking about the console market in general, but that doesn't involve you anymore. So it's like, I think that whilst there should be leeway given, and I will allow that leeway for them to set out their vision and to begin to execute on it, I feel like this statement, if they were going to put it out, would have been better if they had at least some tangible points of, you know, talking about like the plummeting console sales. Okay, you're talking about Xbox being affordable. So are you
Lower the
price cutting the series
Yeah.
consoles? Because what else does affordable mean? Are you talking about Xbox being affordable in terms of Game Pass? Well, then you probably should have clarified that it was Game Pass and not the console. It's very nebulous, and it's nebulous in a way that allows them to claim victory on things that I don't know that really they should, when we're taking them at face value on what they're saying currently as we understand it. And furthermore, it's like Xbox talking about stepping on rakes. Like, why lay yourself up to potentially fail? Like, you're putting out this thing right now in a seeming defensive move, trying to be like, guys, we're in it for the long run. This is all the things we're going to do. Well, what if we give them 4 years or whatever, and they don't do any of this stuff? Well, then it's like, well, we just did 4 years for what?
Well, for me personally,
Yeah.
I think this generation is a wash. I think there's no coming back this generation. Everything that we should judge Asha on does really start for me with Project Helix. Like that rollout, and not to say like, oh, launch day, like the rollout of it, like the small wins that she's been getting, great. But it really does start once you show the console, once we get firm details. Like I see here, deliver Project Helix to lead in performance and play your console and PC games. They still keep using the phrase PC games as opposed to play your Steam, play your like. Can we get firm details as this is going to play your Steam library? Because we don't have that yet. We have a lot of nebulous talk. We have let's see there. What's the other point I wanted to make here? The fixing the fundamentals for partners and players. They talk a lot about like needing to improve the back end experience for developers. And I think that's all great, because I've listened to, again, shout out Luke over at the Expansion Pass. He had a great interview with forget his name. I think he's from New Blood. The publisher over there, and they talked in detail about how Xbox's back end for publishing games is a freaking nightmare compared to the other platforms. You need to fix that. You need to make it easier to publish on your platform. You need to work with partners. You need to give them updates. Like, it's not just players. You have to work with developers and publishers too. And it's great having the big boys, Capcom, Take Two, but like there's plenty of smaller indie publishers that skip your platform. So those are tangible things I think we will know in a relatively short time. Like Project Helix comes out, whether they're making steps to rectify that. I think the points about Game Pass, fortified Game Pass, I think the price increase is one step they're taking. But as we just spent, I don't know, an hour talking about Game Pass, like there are things up in the air with it. So we'll have to see how that plays out. There's just so many things here that's like, you're right. They could fail. And are they going to hit every bullet point here? I doubt it. I don't think, I wouldn't hold any company to that standard. I don't think PlayStation puts out a 16-point bullet list. I don't think they're getting all that either. Nintendo the same way, right? But I might feel a little more confident in them just based on the history of the platform and things that have happened in the last decade with the Xbox brand. I don't know. I think I personally don't have a problem with the statement overall. I think it's good to recognize, hey, players, developers, pretty frustrated at the state of Xbox right now. Did you need to say it? No. I think inherently everyone kind of knows that. It's good you know that too, I guess. But like all of this really is just, here's what we hope to do, and I'm going to hold you to it in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I get that Xbox is in a, I'm not going to say like necessarily actively dire position, but in a diminished position, and more jeopardizing, I guess, position than the other console makers. So that might lead to exigent circumstances that would require them to do something that the other consoles and companies don't do. But the thing about Sony and Nintendo is that they just don't do things like this. They never have. Even when Sony was on the back foot in the PS3, like they weren't doing stuff like this. And I know obviously that was over a decade ago. Things changed, different climate, all these. But it's like actions speak louder than words. And I've seen a lot of commentary on social media from this statement of people being like, wow, I've never seen Xbox be so transparent. And it's like,
well, they have to. We're losing players.
Not only that, but also, are they being transparent actually? Really? Because what are they actually telling you? And two, how has Xbox being vocal and being transparent gone for them as of late?
Not well.
Because I thought that the whole problem was that Phil Spencer was talking too much and saying like, oh, we want to do this, and then being clipped out and being like, oh, well, you said this 6 months ago and now you're doing the exact opposite, or were you lying then or are you lying now? It's like, Xbox, I feel like you probably should have taken the hint and just shut up. And like, if you do these things, great, and you'll get credit for it. But like, don't say you're going to do it, because then it means you have to do it, or you're shooting yourself in the foot. It's like, just deliver on the things like you have been doing. Again, to give Asher and the team credit, they've been delivering on things, and they weren't talking about it beforehand. Like all of these updates and things and tweaks and changes and like community requested things, they've just come out of the blue, and you're like, oh shit, like fair play. This came out of nowhere, and that's great. And that is the stuff that's been getting people on board with the team. It's not statements like this. This statement is like and I'm not saying that you are, or anybody who likes or appreciates them making the statement. It's like, this is the kind of statement that plays to the people that would just slurp it up without actually picking it apart. And like, we pick it apart and we talk about it and we're like, what it means. But there are people who will just see it at face value, say, we are Xbox, and be like,
I do think getting rid of Microsoft Gaming is a good move.
It is.
We've talked for a while how we thought maybe Microsoft Gaming would become the default name for the brand. I think Xbox is a much better brand name, has more cachet. No one cares. No one wants to hear Microsoft Gaming. All right. So I'm completely happy with them getting rid of that name and just being Xbox. There is two statements here I want to talk
Sure.
about. And it is specifically, if I can find it. Oh, along the way, we will reevaluate our approach to exclusivity, windowing, and AI and share more as we learn and decide. And then also, our new North Star will be daily active players, which you mentioned a little while ago. I see a lot of people latching on specifically to that one statement about exclusivity and say, oh, they're reevaluating it. First of all, we talked last week that they were, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I don't remember. We've talked recently about how they are having conversations about exclusivity, and
Of course.
we both agreed. Of course they are. They're a $1 trillion company. It'd be stupid not to have those conversations. You can't also then say, you put out a whole message here about how meeting players where they are is what's important. People expect games to be everywhere, basically. The younger generation, they expect this. And then you also say your North Star will be daily active players. I have a quick message for anyone who thinks Xbox is going back on exclusives. And this isn't to say 100 there will be never be an exclusive again or a timed exclusive. Or,
Sure.
in general, it makes no sense to say we want daily active users to be our main KPI, our key performance indicator. That is the number we care the most about. And then say, we're going to limit the amount of players we can have in that category by having exclusives. The way you drive that number is by getting your games everywhere. Switch, PlayStation, cloud, PC. Like, you want it as many platforms as possible. If you're being honest and that is the metric you care the most about, you're openly telling us exclusives don't make sense for the number one goal of our brand. So please tell me where the hopium is coming from that exclusives are now coming back, because you're getting, again, two conflicting statements in one. I think this isn't even the first time about exclusivity that we've had from them where we have conflicting information. Nothing has changed for me. I do not think exclusives are coming back by and large, as I just said, in general. I think people need to let it go. I think the more you harp on, they're feeding into you. They're feeding into their fan base, their online fan base, probably, because most Xbox players aren't reading this. They don't care. But like their online fan base that's tweeting, "Hey Asha, what about exclusives? Like, you think you could revisit that?" They're feeding into those people. That's how I read it, and I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I put out on social media as well as like, if the North Star is daily active players, there is it like you said, it just doesn't make sense. Now, could they do something nonsensical? Sure. Wouldn't put it past Microsoft for a second. But like we said last week or the week before, if they do that, they'll learn something, and what they'll learn is that they just lose an insane amount of money and they don't have as many players as they could have had. And they could, in the middle ground, go to a timed exclusive model.
Mhm. Which is kind of what they do now, whether
Sure.
it's potentially or not.
And I think that as I've seen some people talk, they're going to use Forza Horizon 6 as a litmus test for that, because it's going to PlayStation 5 later this year. And it's obviously going to sell incredibly well.
Millions.
So I think that by then, that will then by proxy justify them going down the timed exclusive route, because it's like, well, we still made boatloads of money with a delayed launch. And maybe made gains on the initial launch on Xbox and PC for sure.
Yeah, but I think that only works for certain titles, right?
Exactly.
We talked last week about Starfield.
Yep. Took the words out of my mouth. Those cases will be the exception, not the rule.
Mm-hmm.
And I will go all the way back to when we were talking initially back on X Talk with Champak Sam about the business update and the whole idea of like, are they not going to have exclusives? Are they going to have exclusives? And I said about like Redfall. I said, well, Redfall is a bit of an extreme example because of how bad it was, but they still decided to put it out. But the fact that it was not multi-platform at launch meant that it could never come to PlayStation, because if it did come to PlayStation after the fact, no sucker is going to buy it because it's had that pun not intended apparently, but it happened.
Yeah.
Where you've had months and months or years in some cases of middling to poor reviews. Whereas if it's multi-platform, you lock in pre-orders on every single system. There's no reviews for people to sculpt their opinions off of. They're just impulse buying. They FOMO, 48 hours early access, all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there will be games like with Forza Horizon 6 where that stuff isn't going to matter and you'll still make tons of money. But when they're putting out, Clockwork Revolution next year, and by all intents and purposes, that game looks great. But let's just say it came out and it was like mid, like it was fine. You'll still sell okay on PlayStation, I'm sure, if it came 6 months, a year later. But like, I wonder how much
you
Indiana
lose.
Jones's sales were hampered on PlayStation. Like, it still did well, obviously, but like, how much better could it have done? Would it have done better? We don't know. And I think that sort of ambiguity of, could we have made more money by just riding the wave of initial release? Is that better than having a second, potentially smaller wave 6 months down the line of sales boosts? I don't know.
You know what I want to see is Indiana Jones is coming to Switch 2 this year.
Mm.
I want to see how, like, does it depend on ecosystem? Like, is Indiana Jones, like, maybe it sells really well on Switch 2. Maybe timed exclusivity for Switch 2 has less of a drawback than PlayStation. Like, I would love to see that kind of information. Whether, did South of Midnight sell better on Switch because it's a more Switch coded game as opposed to the 16,000 is on play. Well, like, we don't get those numbers from Nintendo. Like, we don't get the Nintendo platform numbers. They're so ambiguous in that space. It's an interesting conversation, but I'm very much of the same mind as you. I don't think exclusives are coming back, and I think we all need to accept that.
Yeah, I mean, because the question with that of like, does X game sell better on X console, and therefore we can do 6 months or a year later and it won't hamper sales? Like, surely we're just verging back into case by case territory then. And I thought that's not what anybody wanted. I thought people wanted clarity and like definitive statement, just go full ball one way or the other.
I do, yes.
Because if it's like, oh, well, and you could make some delineations of like the smaller experimental new IP games go multi-platform, but the stalwarts, the big IP are timed exclusives maybe. But like, if whatever Compulsion is working on next comes out multi-platform because it's a smaller game, it's not a massive IP. If it comes out at launch multi-platform and then it explodes, it's like the biggest thing ever. You're going to say that Xbox are going to be like, yes, sick, that worked for Compulsion's next game. We're not going to do it with Gears of War, though. Why would we do that? It's like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, it's really, the way you're phrasing it is, do you believe in these teams or not?
Yes, exactly.
Do you believe that Compulsion can make a game of the year worthy title that's going to sell millions on other platforms and drive subscriptions to Game Pass and get the sales on Xbox it's going to get? Or do you think this is going to be a 7, it doesn't really matter when it comes to other platforms. Let's just put in Game Pass as a content drop, like a
And
filler, you know?
that's not only pressurizing on the teams during the development process, but also I would imagine in this hypothetical, demoralizing to teams if the decision is then made to go multi-platform and the understanding internally is, okay, well, you made a game that isn't quite good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to spread the field with it to try and make as much money as possible because we're not sure it's going to do very well. Sorry, guys. So the Xbox need to have confidence in all of their teams. If they don't have confidence in their teams, why do they have the teams? And the same is of course true of like PlayStation. Like if you have a team you don't believe in, why do you have them? Because the point is that you buy them and then you support them in what they do, and you're like full steam ahead behind them,
I
cheering
talked
them
about
on.
that when Hellblade 2 was coming out and there was
Yeah,
no marketing.
yeah.
And I was like, the Xbox clearly doesn't believe this game is going to be like the
It
Xbox
just like
fan
is what it
base.
is, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
the
like
Xbox
no,
fan base believed it was going to be much more than what it actually was. But you could tell the way they did not market that game, that Xbox was like, it's coming out. And it came and went. And we've had that with quite a few times. Like, I South of Midnight was a good game. I think it falls in that category as well. I would put Avowed there in the same can. I think maybe a little better, but like Obsidian themselves have said, Avowed did not perform very well. The Outer Worlds 2, I think, was hampered by a lot of bad marketing and messaging and too much overexposure, and it just had a whole host of problems. But you don't hear people talk about the Outer Worlds 2. You don't like compared to the Outer Worlds 1, which I felt had a much, it didn't blow up the zeitgeist, but like you heard people talk about it months after the
proper
fact.
cult following. Yeah.
I don't think the Outer Worlds 2 has that. And it's a shame because I think it's a better game.
Yeah, I think the only way that it works for Xbox is either you go full timed exclusive on everything or full multi-platform on everything. And obviously, timed exclusive on everything would be, I would imagine, more preferable for them because it gives them a stronger chance of, regaining some market share or getting people to buy in because of FOMO. But that's also the far riskier option because again, if a game doesn't quite pan out, then you've just buggered your chance to recoup.
You need to be putting out console selling. My whole thing is they talk about affordability in that post too. Does that mean Helix is not going to be as expensive as we all think it's going to be? We'll see.
How?
I exactly how. I don't know how that's possible, but I do. I'm just sitting here in my mind. What game could they possibly put out as an exclusive to sell me $1,000, $1,200 box?
Well, the answer is Elder Scrolls 6.
That won't get me to buy. I mean, I'll play it on PC, but I don't. Does that move them? Does that get you to buy that box for most people though? Like, I think they look at the price point and they still say that's way too much.
Well, yes, I'm with you, but I think that's the only game that comes close. And obviously, Fallout 5, I think, would be an even safer bet. But of course, that is like a decade away at that,
The fact that they're putting out I don't understand their strategy. We can go in circles with this, but like putting out a really expensive machine with no exclusives doesn't make any sense, but also is the only thing that makes sense.
Well, I mean, the only way that it makes sense is if, as we talked about previously, that it was going to function as an off-ramp.
Yes.
To PC eventually.
Yes.
But like they're now framing it as if that's not what it's intended to be. Like it will still technically do that if you want it to be an off-ramp, but they're not going to pitch it or, not actually pitch it.
No, well, it's automatically going to because everything's just going to be a PC version now.
Yeah. Like, but again, they're doubling down on the console verbiage and they're saying like recommitting to Xbox, we are Xbox. It's like, well, Xbox Helix as we understand it today isn't what Xbox is.
It's not.
It's an evolved version of Xbox. So if you're like returning to Xbox, you're not actually going back to Xbox because Xbox Helix is as different an Xbox as we've ever seen. It's the furthest thing from OG Xbox. So like,
yeah, we really need clarification. Yeah, we really need clarification, and we'll get it over the next couple of months, most likely, if they are planning to release this.
You're a more optimistic man than I.
Game Awards, maybe. Like we'll see a reveal. I don't know. They did it with the Series X.
It's
I
true.
don't know, man. There's so many things up in the air with Xbox right now. I think I said this somewhere, but like the next few years of Xbox are going to be crazy to see, to talk about. Like I'm still I'm not getting I'm not getting Helix. I have a
No.
PC. Like I'm just you're gonna they have only said they're committed to PC. I have no reason to go back. And I wonder how many people are in the camp with me. And if they continue the multi-platform strategy, as we've both said, we expect them to. I don't know. Nothing's really changing for me with these statements, but we will wait and see and judge them in due time. Everyone, I think we will wrap it up there. This might be our longest episode ever.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for hanging out with us. Hope you enjoyed the Saros review and all this Xbox talk. Sam, can you let people know where they can find you until next week?
People can find me still playing Saros way too late into the night. And also, just as an aside, lamenting the fact that Kiln's all-time peak is 191 players.
Why would you say that to me?
Hey, maybe that encourages people to actually go play it because people aren't playing it. But in the meantime, anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney, HEANEY.
You can find me at the Muffin Mon everywhere. It's a 17I07A. Follow us at Save the Game Media over on Blue Sky to stay updated with our latest content. Until next week, we will see you. Goodbye.
Peace.